There's a lot more that we, as the industry, have to do.
You lost me at rats.
We used to have these big binders for casting and background casting, right? Because you take a Polaroid and put it in a binder.
How do you keep crew members like that? And then how do you also make sure that you're opening up opportunities for work for other people who want to apply?
Boo, boo, boo. Shame on you.
Welcome to Occupy All Spaces, the podcast.
Yeah.
Just one of our very many things. My name is Yejide, and this is
Ife Alaba.
Yes, Ife is a star here in St. John's of Newfoundland and Labrador.
St. John's of Newfoundland and Labrador.
Is that okay?
Yeah, she's a princess of
I don't know where this narrative started from.
You started it.
Yes. And if I was not the guest for today, I would have gone on and on. But today we have a very special guest with us in the person of
Lisa Porter. But even before we do that, we didn't even say what this podcast was about.
If do you want to...
Boo, boo, boo. Shame on you.
If do you want to tell us what Occupy All Spaces, the podcast, is really, really all about?
Yeah.
And just vibing with me.
Occupy All Spaces started as an initiative because I couldn't really find a lot of Black people on sets, and it was just like jarring. And so we realized that people needed to have workshops, people needed to be educated, or just even bring together the Black creatives in Newfoundland. We usually do workshops in St. John's, but we decided that we should do a podcast so that it can go to Gander, Corner Brook, outside of St. John's, to Labrador, and anyone else who wants to listen. So here we are doing a podcast with Yejide, and our guest is Lisa Porter. Yeah.
Hello.
So Lisa is a producer extraordinaire, writer extraordinaire.
Yes.
I think you were a dancer in your past life extraordinaire, writer extraordinaire. But Lisa's going to tell us more about herself.
Wow. Oh boy, where do I start?
The beginning.
The beginning. In a little house in the east end of St. John's, Newfoundland.
Were you really in a little house?
It was a modest house. It wasn't a little house. It was... I grew up with a pretty middle-class, post-Confederation family, early kind of first-generation university education. A lot of us around here of that era kind of were in the heady days of, the wealth of having joined Canada in 1949. It's fresh on my mind now because it's the 75th anniversary of joining Canada. And we had a screening of Secret Nation, which was a movie I worked on back in 1990, which was with Kathy Jones.
Okay, that was before I was.
Yeah, before you guys were here.
1990 is crazy.
It's wild. It sounds so far.
Yeah.
That way.
And it was written by Ed Rich and produced by my late husband, Paul Pope. And it was a comedy about the conspiracy, or the idea about, was there a conspiracy when we joined Canada? Because the vote was 48-52 to join Canada or to become an independent nation. So the sad part of it was we are supposedly the only nation that voted itself out of existence. Some people want to become independent. We apparently voted ourselves in to join Canada. So it's timely that this is the 75th anniversary of Confederation. And so here we are in Newfoundland on the edge of the North Atlantic. I, like many people in film, I kind of stumbled into it.
That is such a reoccurring theme. I stumbled into it.
I fell into it accidentally. I was born into it.
I don't think I was born into it.
Was it breath? Somebody breathed breath?
No.
Breathe their breath into you? Okay.
Yes.
So, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a ballerina. And then when I was in university, I think I wanted to work at like Oxfam or some NGO. And then I just stumbled into this job working on a set of TV commercials and a short film to encourage women to get into non-traditional jobs. And I was hired to do the graphics for this little school book. It was a school book that was a handbook that went for the teachers so that they could teach about the subject. And when I came with my little laptop, early computer, an early Mac, an Apple.
It would have been so heavy.
It wasn't. It wasn't a laptop. It was like a desktop. It was an Apple. And they said, "Oh, you got a computer? You can do the call sheet." And I was like, what's a call sheet?" So my first second AD job was, I just totally stumbled into it. And then I ended up working as a PA, working as a second AD, working in locations, working in casting, because of course back then we did it all like you do in a small industry. You have to kind of pick away at films at your own rate and for the skills that you can do. So you did a bit of everything. And that's how I got into the business.
How many roles would you say you've had?
Casting, location management, and scouting, second AD, third AD. I've directed, and I've done some screenwriting and some performing. So I guess 8 or 9.
So you came in
And producing. Now I produce.
You came in a graphic designer and you left a second.
And I left. And I left now as a producer. Yeah.
9 roles, 9 hats.
Yeah,
that you
9
can
hats. Yeah,
juggle.
you juggle a lot of hats in this business, and it's not uncommon. It's not uncommon. I'm sure you've done similar kinds of things. I know that you've done second AD and you've done locations.
Third AD is not for the weak.
Third AD is not. And of course, I will date myself now when I talk about pre-cell phone and pre-digital photos. And we used to have these big binders for casting and background casting, right? Because you take a Polaroid and put it in a binder. And then when you're background casting, you'd have dropouts. And I remember going down to the ship-in at 11 o'clock at night and recruiting people. Can you come tomorrow morning to be in the courthouse scene?
Or because
So
there was,
you
like,
recruit people
Facebook
up.
and stuff wasn't there.
There was no Facebook. There was no cell phones.
Tough.
And yeah, recruiting in bars to get people to
And then
come and
how
be
do you-
background.
How are you guaranteed that they'll show up the next day?
Well, you're going to pay them. And they're probably your friends and acquaintances. So, yeah, but maybe they didn't. Maybe they were hungover. But
Would that be the most challenging part of what you do?
no, that was actually probably fun because I lived downtown. It was like going to your backyard and saying, "Hey, Faye, will you come? Please, 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 please come and be on a bus tomorrow morning," because I don't have enough people.
Oh, sure.
So what is the most challenging part? Like looking when you started, what was the most challenging part for you?
I think the physicality of the amount of work you had to do in terms of breaking down scripts, and you were shooting on film. So every day, that was when I was a PA, every day, at the end of the day, you were drove out to the airport to send your film out to be developed. The photocopier always breaking down, the amount of stuff that we did by hand, the amount of stuff we did like in binders, and the amount of paper, and the amount of the physicality of it, was really challenging.
So you would have a much more and better appreciation for technology now than
Yes,
you did.
huge appreciation when I think of the things that we used to do. I mean, we did have computers, so I'm of that age, so we did do things on computers. But it wasn't long before that, probably only 7 or 8 years before that, you've probably seen a strip board in a museum where you had a big board and you wrote everything down on a strip.
Yeah.
And that's why when you see now, it's all done by strips, and that's modeled after the physical strip board, where you cut out pieces of paper and you put all the information on a scene on a strip, and you physically move them around on this big board that kind of folded out.
Yeah, I'm actually
schedule.
tired.
So you're tired even thinking about it, yeah.
So like, do you just go, kids of today will never know? Do you go like, kids of today will never know how hard
Kids
we
today
had
will
to-
never know. We'll never know.
The hard work.
And the beauty of the technology that we have, it is amazing. We didn't have any unions back then here, except for ACTRA. ACTRA was here because of CBC. So they are a stalwart and an inspiration for all of us. We actually, after one particular film, and it wasn't that we didn't like the producer, it was we did one film, I won't name it, but there were a lot of nights. So you're, going to work at 5 o'clock and working all night, and it was a difficult location. It was down by the harbor, and there were rats, and everyone was exhausted. And after that, we actually started our own union.
You lost me at rats.
Yeah.
You weren't to see me back the next day, rats.
And we were pretty stubborn. We didn't really want to join the existing unions because we wanted to maintain control of our own relationships with producers and the way that we made films and the way that we structured crews. So we didn't want to have like an outside force deciding on what our rates had to be. But we also wanted minimum standards to say, all right, you can't be working 15, 16 hours a day. And you would need overtime and you need protections just like any industry.
Yeah.
So we started an organization called Film Crew Association of Newfoundland, FilmCAN. And it was really heady days because we went through all the union agreements from IATSE, from DGC, and from NABIT, and from the Quebec unions. And we wrote our own agreement that was both production and what would now be called, what's now DGC. And it really helped the industry. It really made us think about it. It made us think about what do we want, what's a safe workplace, even though we knew producers didn't have a lot of money, so it's not that we were without sympathy for that, but it really helped all of us move the industry along, and we probably kept it for about 3 or 4 years, and until it had grown to the point where we went, okay, we don't need to manage this. We feel confident enough in the way that we're working that we can join another union, and also feel that we can have control.
So you've obviously, like, with helping start out a union and doing all these jobs, having so many hats, sorry, having your creative process just come from so many places. How does that affect how you work now, whether it is as a producer or when it's, you writing, seeing as you know how hard it is to be,
Yeah.
you know how hard it is to be in front of camera, but also at the back, and knowing that workplace culture is important. How does that?
I think it's good. It makes it difficult to make those hard choices. And it's important for me to have had that background, but also to know what a budget is and the limitations of your budget. And it's, I mean, as you know, I haven't been producing all these years, although I've certainly produced a lot. I've certainly been on the crew side a lot more. And these past few years with Rex has really made me more aware of the limitations on all sides of what you can do. I guess I'm toughening up a little bit, which is hard because I come from a union background, I think. But you also have to know this is what we have, guys. Like, we're not making this up. We're not withholding money from you when you want another daily because it's a rough day. We're not making this up. Like, this is what we got. It's a finite amount of money. So I really have been, in a weird way, enjoying getting into the meat of a budget, getting into the real nuances of a budget, and looking how to balance it, and looking how to balance your script. And this is something that Paul always used to say, is that you have to, it's no good having a great script and hiring a great star if you don't have any money to do the day-to-day grind of a shoot. And it's no good having a great crew if you don't have gear. Like, you're gonna always have to balance out how many toys you have, how many crew you have, how many locations you have, how many stunts and how many things are in your script. Like, there are so many things to balance, and I kind of love that.
Do you find that the crew understands when you work with crews?
Most of the times they do, Sometimes it's challenging, there's no question about it.
It's like,
but I have a better understanding now.
Yeah.
I do have a better understanding.
Just from the way that you told the story from the beginning, your experiences are clearly shaped who you are, how you've made judgments, how you've made decisions, and here and there. Are there any advice that you may have currently for emerging artists, Black creatives who haven't already experienced all of the bulk of knowledge that you have now? Are there any advice that you have?
Yes, find your confidence. We were pretty sheltered growing up on an island, and frankly, a pretty impoverished island. My generation was the first to have, my peers went away to school, and it was great. There were a lot of opportunities, but I think generationally, when you don't come from multiple generations of education and opportunity like you would in a big city, or like you would in other situations, you don't have kind of a generational confidence. and then there's the gender thing. You know, you don't have, for whatever reason, I may not have had a huge amount of confidence as a young female, and that's why when you say you stumble into things, it's like, oh, well, this is cool, I can do this, and you try that, and you try, you know, I did dance, and I did theater, and I did a bunch of things, and I waitress, like, you know, many people did. I did it all. But it all kind of came to me, and I don't regret any of that, but I would give the advice now, if you want to do something, grab onto it now and find your confidence and go right for it. I don't discourage people from dancing around and do what I did. That's okay too, but you might get somewhere a lot faster if you just go for it. And if you have access to funding, there's more funding available now. There are more possibilities, and you can learn stuff online. You know, go to school. Like you can go to CNA. Of course, I'm going to give a plug in for the film school at CNA.
Of course.
It's, you know, it's reasonable. They have state-of-the-art equipment. They have access to state-of-the-art education. So it's affordable. So do that. But also, if you can't do that, if you're working full time, you don't have time to go to school, go online. There's so much stuff online. You can learn about color. You can learn about light. You can learn about sound.
Yeah.
Practice, 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 and start making your little films now, because you can do it on your phone.
Yeah.
Right? And that's access to stuff that we didn't have. So only rich kids did it.
Yeah.
Right? And you see that. And I was talking to a young woman I know who's an aspiring DP, and she's a camera operator, and she's doing amazing, and she has that. And I've talked about this to other women who, you see it in school. They're in film school, and all the guys have all this gear because they somehow, maybe they didn't come from wealth, maybe they did, maybe they didn't, but they focused on it and said, I'm going to go buy an SLR camera, or I'm going to buy a camera, and they've got $1,000 camera, and they've got they've got a gimbal, and they buy a tripod, and they start buying gear, and they buy a few lights, and like start building up your own set of toys, because they're more available now, and you can afford them now in a way that wasn't available to us. So don't be afraid to buy your own toys if you can, or even share them. And don't be afraid to start making movies and just practice, 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 even if you start with your phone and then work up to one of these guys. And make a bunch of shitty films. Like make hundreds of hours of shitty films and play with that light. It's like, okay, and you've seen that. You can go find them on the YouTube. You know, when someone practicing, well, this is what the light looks like here, and this is what it looks like here, and this is, you go, oh, that's how it goes. And then watch movies. Watch movies and start breaking them down. Watch your favorite movies over and over again, and look at how they're shot, and look at the access, and look at, okay, they got a two-shot, they got a two-shot, they got a wide shot, and then, okay, now they're down there. Oh, that's really cool. Like, see what people are doing, and then practice those at home, even if it's not a film that will ever go into a film festival. Just put the hours in, because it's free now. Like, you know, all you need is some room on your computer.
I know, and it also helps build your portfolio as well.
Yeah.
Just getting ready for big stages.
Yeah.
So,
I've watched Frozen like 10 times, so I know.
You watch what?
Frozen like
Frozen?
10 times, so I know all the angles. But I feel like you're so good at speeches. Like anytime someone's like, Lisa, what do you have to say? You're like really, really good at speeches. And Yejide was saying earlier about the speech that you gave.
oh yes, I should tell that story. So the first time I met Lisa was when I was directing the short film Fairies, and she had this wine jacket on. And she came, and everybody on set seemed to know her except for me, everybody being Kerry, who's right there, and Ife here. And she just came and she was like, who's the director here? And I'm like, hi. And she goes on with this motivational speech, and she's like, I love how amazing, this is amazing. This short film that you're shooting, this is so good. You guys should do more. And I'm like, yes, we will, as soon as I'm done with this one. And that was so good, so good. It tells a lot about the kind of person you are, and most about the passion that you have for arts, and I could see the passion that you especially have for Black creatives, because it was majorly Black on that set, and you just was ready to push us and just get us going, and it was so much fun to see. And just in saying that, are there any gaps that you feel like Black creatives should occupy more, or that we should do more to get ourselves out there?
Well, you're doing it with this organization. There's a lot more that we, as the industry, have to do. And you have to be pushed to do it sometimes, because you get stuck in your ways, you get stuck in your habits, and that goes for any diverse population that's not being well represented. I mean, we're not doing that great on women on our crew. On our crews, we're not. In some areas we are, in some areas like camera across the country, it's still very heavily male. And again, it's a confidence thing. It's like the guys that go out and buy their gear, and they're the ones who get the jobs, and they're the ones who get the hours in. Accessing what you're doing is accessing any kind of funding that's out there, and approaching us like we were approached by the Real World. And we did a cross-country competition for BIPOC people to come in and mentor with writers and directors. So we did that for 2 years. So they went to the writers' room in Toronto. I think we had 2, and they did 2 stints of working with the writers' room. And we had 2 directors that came in and mentored for a full episode, which is about 7 days prep, and then I think that was a block. It might have been 2 episodes, because we would do block shooting often, right? So I guess it's 14 days prep and 14 days shoot, and they mentored with the director and got to basically follow them around and shadow them and participate completely. So we did that for 2 years in a row. And then we did bring back a director next year who came through that program and who got some experience, which is, it's really hard to break into the industry, because especially in television, there's very little entryway.
Yeah.
Like to get an episode with us, you've got to have a bunch of episodes and a bunch of TV, not just feature films either, under your belt before you can even get in the ground floor at this level, right? And we only have so many episodes, and there's senior people, there's senior directors. So we did that, and I think it was really helpful. And we did our diversity boot camp for a year, where we had people in. We did some workshops, and then they went on set, and they got to move around and do different departments. I think they all each got 3 departments, and we got a bunch of people out of that ended up working with us either as dailies or as full-time.
Talking about work, are you hiring?
Are we hiring?
Are you hiring? Do you want me to drop my resume?
Drop your resume off. Yeah, we're always looking for new talent. Always get a resume in. We have a pretty stable crew that comes back over and over again.
Yeah,
it is. I know it's hard to break into, but there's always daily work, and put your resume in, make it clear, and get those experience on those short films. I know there's people doing picture starts.
Yeah.
There's low budget features happening. You cut your teeth on those.
Yeah. Talking about crew and things like that, what is so special about the Newfoundland and Labrador film industry?
Like, what makes us unique?
Yeah, what makes it unique and what makes it stand out? This is what she says, nothing.
I can say what other people say, and I'm cautious about boasting.
Oh, please boast.
But we do get. We get a lot of casts that move in and out. Most of the people that we have moving in and out are casts. There are daily guests in a TV series. And I do get the genuine surprise and shock of people saying, "Oh my God, this was such a good experience. People were so nice. Your crew is so nice. They're so generous and they're so kind." And you often wonder, are they just sucking up because they want to come back? But you can feel the genuineness in it. And it can be a hard business. It can be a very cynical business. When there's money involved, and it's Hollywood. All the cliches of Hollywood and how it can be a grind, and it can be cruel, like any kind of business, or it's kind of famous for it. But I think we have worked pretty hard to develop a sense of respect on set, and I think the crews kind of show that.
Okay.
I didn't used to think that was unique, but I get told it so often.
Yeah, like some
And with such sincerity.
Yeah, because sorry. Yeah, because sometimes you work on sets and then you're like, I could have gone without this trauma in my life. And so it's just really refreshing when you have crew that feels like family. And I've heard that.
Yeah, and I'm not naive to think that we're always perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, when you've got 120 people working together, there's going to be conflict, and there's going to be personalities, and there's going to be people who may not be as strong as you want them to be. And we're not, I think perhaps I'm hoping that we develop a bit of tolerance because we're a small industry, and you can't always have the absolute best and the most brilliant and the most phenomenal people that you can just, I'm just going to let go of that weak person and get this better person because they're there. It's like, well, no, we're going to work with the weak person because that's what we have, and we're going to support them and make them better and try to support each other. And that, again, it can cause conflict and difficulty and disappointment, but this is what you have. It's kind of, you work with where you are with what you have.
Yeah. So in making sure of that, right now you said that you have a pretty constant crew that come in, and you also have new people who come in. How do you make sure? How do you keep the ones that make it such that you get good feedbacks like that? Because I want to say that it's the good people who keep coming back to your crew that makes it easier for you to get good feedback, like people are so nice, or they were easy to work with. How do you keep crew members like that? And then how do you also make sure that you're opening up opportunities for work for other people who want to apply? So you're keeping the ones you have, but also making sure that other people are applying.
Well, that is the great thing about a TV series that shrinks and grows. Like some episodes are bigger, and when you're out on location, and that's when you have an opportunity to grow. That's when you get dailies. That's when you get the PAs, you get the production assistants in locations, and in the ADs. They're the ones that tend to most grow and shrink. But also in grips and electrics, like when we do go on location, that's when you get a chance to prove yourself as a daily, and that's your entry level. But we can't afford to do those big shoots all the time, so then we're back in studio, we shrink, and then there's very few dailies when we're in studio. So that's how you get your entry level.
Makes sense.
Is getting your dailies in.
So how long is Hudson and Rex being on for?
This is our 7th season, which we just finished wrapping.
7th season.
Yeah.
So that's like 7 years?
It's about 7 years, yep.
Wow.
Yeah, 2019, 2018, 19, I think was our first year.
It is such a famous show because her mom watches it in South Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Gillian, who's behind the scene, also watches it in Ghana with her family. So
amazing.
You get her
it does get
international,
around.
and that was just.
What does that feel like, actually, to even know that, like, people all over the world
It's phenomenal.
are watching?
It's phenomenal that it has such a broad audience range. It's a family show. There's not a lot of blood and gore. It's fairly light. Yeah, it feels amazing. I mean, we hit 100 episodes in season 6. So we're over that now. So that was a big milestone.
Yeah.
And yeah, the broad audience and the international audience is pretty satisfying. It's pretty amazing.
You know, when my mom's like, I was like, yeah, Lisa. She was like, I was like, oh, who's that? I was like, oh, she does Hudson Rex. She's like, Hudson and the Rex with the dog. And I was like, yeah, with the dog. I was like, and she was just really excited. 120 people on a crew. That is insane.
Yeah, they're not always that many, and some of them are behind the scenes. That includes post. That
Yeah.
includes
Still
her and our co-producers in Shaftesbury and Toronto. But that's pretty typical for a feature film to have 100 people on a feature.
I don't even think I know 100 people.
It's a small town. It's a small town. So you do your best, I guess, to manage a small town.
Just to go back to the beginning when you were talking about how to get into the industry, I know you had mentioned being a part of the union. I know that that's one of the barriers that I personally have just in the industry. I don't know how to get into, like, I've heard about ACTRA, but I don't know how to, like, what benefit is it for me to join a union, and why, what's the process and all of that?
Well, it's a bit of a chicken and egg, obviously. You have to get hours in, and the way to do that is to make your short films that are lower budget, non-union. Also, just to get in as a daily, because we basically, we get permission from the union if we can't find someone who's in the union, which is common for dailies. There's always opportunity to get in. And a daily is just someone who works for the day. So you start getting in as a daily and you get your hours in. And it's all about getting your hours. The only barriers to getting in the union is doing the work. And getting the work as a permitted work or on a non-union shoot, and getting your hours in, and then getting your hours in on a union shoot as with daily work, which is permitted. And then just start building up your hours, and then you apply that. There's only experience getting barriers to the union. That's the only barrier, is getting your hours in.
So building up your hours is like building up your resume.
Yep.
Basically.
You just build it up, and then.
So then, is there a difference in, like, pay for anyone who's part of the union, and then?
Nope, you're getting the same pay, but you pay a permit fee to the union.
Right.
So a daily work is it's getting into the minutiae, but daily work will actually be a little bit more per day, because you might be like, a weekly rate might be a little bit less. So you technically might be getting paid a bit more as a daily.
But apart from unions, well, being in the industry, there are also so many other entities that help make life easier, such as NIFCO. And I know that
the Film Co-op, which is going to celebrate its 50th anniversary next year, was started in 1975 by a bunch of guys they were all guys, who could not afford this kind of gear. So they came together as a co-op and bought a whole bunch of gear so they could make, weird independent art films. And it has grown since to become kind of a state-of-the-art post facility, and still a place that supports young filmmakers and independent filmmakers. So you can go do their first-time filmmaking program, and they will give you gear. They will give you a camera. You can go out and give you training. So there's a film class. There's a first-time filmmakers program, and it's brilliant. It's exactly what you need to start in the industry. And then they have other programs. They have Picture Start, which has been very successful, funded by Telefilm. So, once you've got a few short films under your belt, you can get a pretty decent budget to do a short film with Picture Start. And you can get mentored by a producer, mentored by a director. And they're very supportive, and they're still relevant even 50 years later.
Yeah.
So NIFCO is a place to go for sure.
Yeah. You've kind of talked about getting projects under your belt and things like that. Are there any projects that you're excited for in the future or want to see happen in the future for yourself?
For myself, I'm not going to talk about my own projects right now. I covered a couple of half-hour comedies in development, which I'm really excited about.
Are you hiring for that? I'm pretty funny.
Oh, you're hiring?
I'm fine.
I got to get it off the ground first.
I can be funny.
I got a little project with a woman named Ife that got in development for Well, there's
What?
two.
Wow.
There's two, actually.
Yeah, there is two.
One is a fun comedy about being a black woman in Newfoundland.
Aha! You are hiring.
And then,
Are we hiring?
and another one is a really fun little competition show that will explore
What does it explore? Well, we'll explore something.
different kinds of aspects of things that you can learn, whether you're going to a factory or whether you're going to learn to fish or whether you're going to. And so two people will get taught how to do something, like bake cookies at a factory, or operate some kind of piece of machinery.
Yeah,
I am
and
looking
like
forward to that.
she's so
Sounds
excited
exciting.
about it.
I'm very
I am
excited about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It seems to me like if I already know some of the things that you are working on, which makes me feel outside of this box. So, can any of you tell me how you guys met? How did the two of you meet? What was it? What was catchy about her? Because she can pretty annoying.
It was at the Women's Film Festival last year. I took pitches. So these are the opportunities where people can pitch me something. And if they pitched me a project which was so clear and simple, and it was like a very brief pitch, and she got it all in like 8 sentences, and I went, oh, okay, I see that.
Brilliant.
I see that.
I don't know if that's how it happened for me. I think for me, I was just like, oh, there's a Lisa, and she just needs me in her life. And honestly, I might as well just do her a favor.
That's the confidence that I didn't have when I was 25.
I might as well just.
And that's what you got to do. You got to.
And now she's stuck with me forever.
Love it.
What can I say? But honestly, it's just been like I feel like it's been a pretty natural thing. Like she's really busy, so whenever she gets back to me is when she gets back to me.
I don't want to propagate that image of me. I try to get back people as soon
No,
as I
but she's
can.
actually pretty good, to be honest. But you know, like it's a careful line not to take people for granted because you
Yeah.
have access to them. So also just being understanding. Because she like I literally texted her something the other day and I was like, I'm overthinking it, and she was like, yeah, I forgot about her. So it's really a privilege to actually like have her as a mentor.
These are basic things that I'm trying to learn is answer your emails, answer your texts, answer your phone calls. That's like a basic executive thing to do. So don't out me.
Is there a memorable, before we go into like the resources or the tips and tricks or the advice that you may have for young creatives, is there a memorable time on set, off set that you had? It could be a funny moment, it could be anything at all, a memorable time that you never forget just from being in this industry.
I'm terrible at those questions. If you don't give it to me beforehand, I'm going to totally zone out.
What's the one that comes to mind right now, like in the next 10 seconds? The one that you can see, but you don't want to talk about?
They're not the satisfying ones. It's the ones where, I was a PA. We did it all back then. Like, there was no transport department. So I parked trucks.
Wow.
And we were up by the BIS, and we had all the trucks parking, and the walkie was at me, and people were at me on the walkie, and everyone was talking at once. And I was probably about your age, parking the Jenny truck, and being the flag person and stopping all the traffic, and having no idea what I was doing. And I remember screaming out in the walkie, "I'm parking big trucks! Leave me alone!"
No, I would actually just have a panic attack.
Listen,
Switch
come
off.
do it yourself.
If you want to shout, come and do it.
Come do it yourself.
I feel like sometimes on set, like someone says something, I'm just like, do you not see me on my way there? Right? But you can't even have an attitude about it. Well, if you were to create a film about your life, what genre would it be? And who would play you?
Oh my God, that's one. You should have given me these questions beforehand. They always do, They don't.
Well-
they don't normally do that.
Well, it has to be a
Some people are
surprise.
so prepared on talk shows and have
No,
such
because then
clever
you'd have come
comebacks.
with a whole pitch.
It's because they get the
Because you'd have come with a whole pitch
You'd have been
for
ready
like
for
Rogers
it.
TV to like actually fund your biopic. So
Had to be. Boy, I can't. No, boy, I can't. That's the Newfoundland answer. That's the Codco answer. No, boy, I can't.
The genre. It's the genre. Is it comedy?
Yeah, no, I mean, my favorite movies are political, and yet my life is a comedy. So I have,
Oh, like a political comedy. would
yeah,
be
political
great.
comedy.
That
Yeah,
would be nice.
yeah, and my early career was all performance art, which was totally abstract, but I'm not a big fan of abstract movies. So I have some divides about what my aesthetic is. Still trying to figure that out.
Interesting. Okay.
Hectic.
Not
I don't think you really have to figure it out. to
Yeah,
be
I
fair.
think, you do what you do today.
Yeah.
Today is what you do.
There you go. That's the motivational speech.
That was
That's
the
the
motivational
one.
speech.
That's
that
the
we
one.
You
did.
wake up in the morning and
And
go, okay,
you
here's
do
where I am today.
Yes.
And that's probably the best advice I can give is don't fret about your fuck ups. Sorry about my
This
language.
is a family show, Lisa.
It is a family show. Don't fret about how you messed up because it will eat you up and save your energy for what you can do today and don't worry about what happened yesterday. And I like it
So good.
because it will eat you alive if you spend your energy on your failures and acknowledge those failures. You go, okay, well, Paul used to drive me crazy sometimes because he had what I call the Pope shrug, because he could mess up all the time, and I would see it, and he would just, whereas I, in my younger days, would be the one kind of person who would be like eaten up and tortured and wake up in the middle of the night going, oh my God, why did I do that? Oh my God, why did I do that? And Paul just had this natural ability to go, move on and do better.
Yeah. The doing
Just,
better
like,
part.
Do better. You learn from your mistakes and try to do better, even if you make that mistake over and over again. You go, okay, I did that 3 times now. Maybe this time I'll learn from it. This time I'm going to learn from it.
Yeah. Well, this was a very informative episode. Even though you guys try to gang up on me, it's not cute.
Well, we didn't do it as much as we planned to. You should be grateful.
We could do better.
We could do better.
I'm sure we'll
Take it from top.
Wow, it's okay. I
sure.
think I did a great job of surviving you two. But this was such a great episode, and I think I learned so much. Did you learn a lot?
Oh my gosh, I did. I learned a lot, not just for myself, but for my friends who are emerging artists and will be knocking on your door. I know you're very busy, but
We'll keep knocking.
yeah.
I mean, I have
That's
to
what
knock.
you said. Yeah.
I have to knock.
Yeah. You
And
said
it's
wake up and
business.
do it.
It's a
So,
business where you always have to knock. And
Yeah.
I'm also finding my feet
Yes.
and getting out there and finding my inner Paul, because he's here in my head all the time. Still, right? Going, go out and do it.
Yeah.
Just go out and do it. Okay.
So yeah, thank you for coming on the Occupy All Spaces podcast.
Thank you for having me. I feel
We
very
hope you had
privileged.
fun. Did you have fun?
I did. I
Did we bore you?
I don't think so.
I was gonna say I'm allergic to that. Like what that means.
No. Duh.
But before we go, shout out to our sponsors, Celebrate NL. Thank you so much for giving us an opportunity to celebrate diversity in the arts in Newfoundland and Labrador. See you next episode.